This is Jay Michaels, and we're still here aboard the Starship Boston Sci-Fi, bostonsci-fi.com. Go to that website to find out about, are you ready for this? The #1 longest running genre film festival in America, and only the second one in the entire world. There are as many films in this festival and events as there are stars in the heaven. And we have some with us today, and I'm really excited to talk to these particular filmmakers. Gina Rose was chatting with me beforehand, and the adventure of making the film seems to be as exciting as her film. Gina, tell us all about your entry in Boston Sci-Fi 46.
Yes, thank you, Jay Michaels. So my film is titled I Can't Sleep, and the tagline or the plot of the film is a young writer struggles to complete her science fiction story while battling supernatural forces in real life. And it is a micro-budget film that I made on a fund of $10K. And I saved that money over the course of 1 year while I worked 2 jobs in mental health, which is my, non-film career. And we filmed it here on location in the San Francisco Bay Area.
So you filmed a science fiction film with the money you got from working in the mental health industry.
Correct.
And,
yes.
And what it must be like to raise the money and do this film. You directed it and produced it, yes?
I did, yes, both of those.
Yeah,
and wrote.
Wrote, directed, produced it. Great. Well, I'm sure that did a wonderful job on your mental health.
It did. It was challenging, but also very rewarding in the long run.
You have a very interesting plot line here, and I laugh because a writer of science fiction is battling supernatural forces to get her novel done, to get her story done.
That's right. Yes.
I smile at that on so many levels because science fiction and horror and fantasy they've always been a big business, but lately they've taken on another level of big business. We've seen Academy Awards go to science fiction and horror films. We have seen major honors happen. We've seen huge celebrities be part of the genre of films and the genre itself. And it's really exciting to watch because it's like we're coming into our own. Where did you get the impetus to do this?
Well, so this story, it's a frame story. And so it's like a story within a story. So we are seeing her in her room, staying up all night, trying to write. And she has this like interaction with a police officer because she sees things and she's scared and she calls the cops. But then, we also see the story that she is writing in real time. So basically, I have always wanted to do a story or write a story where the person stays up all night and has to like pull off this feat. I just like stories and I guess I relate to that too. And so I had always wanted to do a film like that. The frame story that she is telling, I just had this idea of what would it be like if the world knew that we were going to be visited by aliens, like, they were peacefully coming and it was, happening this evening, like how would the world respond? Like, would they be bored? Would they be kind of like, over it? Would they be excited? Would some people care? Would some people not? I just like the idea of something like this big ranging thing happening to us. And I guess it's interesting now, but with the pandemic and everything, it kind of came to life weirdly.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what attracted me. I've always felt that every horror film, every science fiction film, every fantasy film, no matter how micro a budget, there's a parable in there. There's a story. There's a cautionary tale. I said this over and over again. If we all just watched Contagion back in 2011 a little bit closer, and you bring up a very interesting point when you now the story of the aliens, is that the one the author in the movie is writing, or?
Yes, yeah, she is writing about aliens coming to Earth and how the world
So what
responds.
kind of supernatural forces are stopping her from doing this?
So I don't want to give spoilers, but so she is, seeing lights, and she's seeing things, and she's seeing figures in her driveway and things like that. And without giving too much away, this is actually really deep down a film about trauma, and that happens to be one of my specialties in terms of mental health. And again, don't want to spoil, but if you've seen the movie, hopefully you will know it, gets explained. But it turns out that she's actually processing something that happened to her. And sometimes the symptoms of trauma can seem a lot like supernatural things happening to you, interestingly.
I'm really excited about your premise, because you're hitting something on 3 levels here. We always talk about personal demons. We use the expression demons when we're talking about things that we are battling inside. So
Totally.
essentially, you're giving us 3 levels of demon. You're giving us the demons we create onto the paper. And why we do this? Is this some sort of therapy for us, or what is it that they say Stephen King is terrified of everything he writes? That whatever phobia he has becomes a novel. So we're talking about what we write. We're talking about our fantasies. Then you're talking about how the fantasies can become realities, hence the demons that seem to be plaguing her in here. And then if we want to go deeper, don't ignore those demons, because they might be real, but at least real to you.
Yeah, that's a great read on it. You just put it so perfectly.
I've been watching horror movies for 50 years. So when I hear things like this, I go into my Rolodex and I say, oh, that sounds like. This sounds, aside, we could say, oh, we've seen this sort of plot before, but not this way, because you have modernized the concept of the bewitched book, if you will. You've modernized this in such a way and made it very topical, using mental health. And considering that's your day job, well, there you go, write about what you know.
Yeah, it just comes out. Yeah, it was
really impressive, really, really exciting. And it's a female writer?
Yes. Her name is Leonore, and she lives alone in this house. And she's one of those, writers, which I'm sure we can all kind of relate to, where she has problems finishing. She has lots of starts, but she has trouble finishing. And she kind of gets into it about how, when you don't finish, you don't have to show the world, and then you don't have to be open to the world's scrutiny, and you can kind of stay safe. But I think she, feels this pull that she is kind of ready to have this kind of transaction, like a presentation of her work to the world. But she's struggling with it too.
It's funny you say that, because the Boston Sci-Fi Film Festival originally started at the Orson Welles Theater a million years ago. And Orson Welles, his one big psychological thing that everyone seems to analyze within him, he was always afraid to finish his movies. He would make.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. He was always afraid at the very end to finish a movie. Many times they would hire someone to come in and do that last little bit of editing, because he just couldn't, as they say, put it in the can. He just couldn't close it.
I didn't know that about him, but that's fascinating how he would get up to the very end, it sounds like. But then somebody else would kind of have to pull the trigger.
The Magnificent Ambersons, for instance, was such a masterpiece, but someone else, from what I understand, did the ending, because he just couldn't. So it's interesting that you're grabbing a little history there. Now, if we're talking history, my last question to you before I speak to the 2 gentlemen here, I'm smelling maybe a little biographical thing here.
Really?
You have like a dozen works in your drawer that just need 2 more pages to them or something?
I have more than a dozen. Yes, basically the character is me, more or less. And I think it's a weird, as we say in psychology, parallel process where. So I set out to make this film, and I was like, I've been wanting to make film since I was 14, 15, and this is my first feature. And I had to fight really hard to finish this film. I encountered lots and lots of obstacles and setbacks and challenges and my own personal demons, And yet this time there was something in me that was just like, you will finish this, kind of just God is my witness, this will happen. So it really forced me into that position. I think it was a good growth experience for me as well. And yeah, kind of helped me to build confidence and to like trust my gut and to trust my artistic vision too, and to finish. So now I feel like I've like learned a lot on so many levels from making this film. And I can't wait to make the next one.
I'm not talking about the ending of this one. I'm talking about its beginning. Apparently, you've conquered the demons. You conquered your own demons to get this.
Yeah, and sometimes I feel like I'm still in the process of conquering, but I do feel like the me today compared to the me 2.5 years ago has like grown a lot, and largely because I pushed myself and I like learned that I could overcome obstacles and I could deal with scrutiny and all that, and I could still finish, which is a huge lesson I think for all artists. So I hope they can take that away from the film too. It can be inspiring for them.
Gotta still have demons. We need a sequel.
A sequel. We'll see.
There you go, gentlemen. Thrilled to have both of you, and you're giving me a quick rundown before we began about your movie, and a wonderful thing that Boston Sci-Fi is doing this year. They are spotlighting films of people who've overcome obstacles. We use the word challenged, we use the word impaired, we use so many different words, but basically the bottom line is they are overcoming these things, and that alone is heartening. Now yours seems to be the granddaddy of it. Oh my gosh. Please tell me about the film. Doug Cole, Gregory, how do you pronounce it? Bayne?
Bayne, yeah.
Bayne, look at that. I got it right the first
Bayne
time.
of your existence, yeah.
Lay it on me. Tell me about your movie.
Well, Making Sense is, and Greg can tell about the storyline, but it's unique in that there are people with disabilities in the film. Actually, I think like 25 and 5 supporting actors. It's not a film about disability, but it's the catalyst, much like it is in the story of Rain Man or another one of those dramas where it keeps it moving. And it came about 10 years ago. My best friend was paralyzed, and he said, Doug, I used to be the person that used to pity other people in wheelchairs when I saw them. And then that became me overnight. And I thought, well, this is a great, genesis of a story. What if we looked at people not as damaged, but as sensory enlightened through neuroplasticity? So I took that idea to Greg, and he brought it to life. We co-wrote a script, and there are science fiction elements to it, and I think it's really going to be engaging.
That's really fascinating. Oh, interesting. Greg, tell me more. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, so Doug brought this to me a few years ago now. I mean, the story, it's about this aging neuroscientist who's sort of battling his own cognitive decline, and he's looking for someone to pass his work on to. So he teams up with this group of grad students, one girl in particular who's sort of battling her own demons, in that she blames herself, feels responsible for causing a disability in her sister. So they all kind of come together. She's working on a project initially to create, essentially to help the deaf to hear by feeling, which is some studies that have been going on, interesting enough, actually out in the world. So we sort of took a cue from some of that. And anyway, they go on this sort of journey where they bring together this group of 5 individuals, all missing one of the primary, having a deficit of one of the primary senses. So sight, hearing, taste, touch, and feel. And so I did
Smell.
say
You forgot
smell. Excuse me, smell. And we actually found people that definitively have those actual disabilities, which was important to us. It was actually made in Idaho with a pretty green cast for the most part. And we're trying really hard in terms of the casting to get the, we wanted, if you were playing the individual that didn't have a sense of smell, you needed to have a sense of smell, which obviously narrows the gap of people that you can find. But we lucked out. We found some really, really amazing people. And I mean, I think in the end, the film, it's called Making Sense, but it's really, about like, making sense of family, making sense of relationships, making sense of what you want to get out of your life. And they go on this journey where I think what they find, they want to find this idea of unlocking the sixth sense, but they really find that that's sort of the group humanity, when we all come together in search of one thing. That sort of is what makes the sixth sense blossom and grow. It's our shared humanity.
I was going to say, as you were saying it, it was coming into my head that we have this amazing parable in your movie. It's essentially to get, when we're separate, there's something wrong. You might say there's a blockage when we think separately, when we think away from everyone else. We've just been through a time in this country where of division and how that becomes issues. When we come together, when we are one, when all five senses are together, when we are one community, then there's a happy ending. I'm not giving a spoiler, I don't know the ending, but there's you bring together a community. You make us all feel like one. So you're hitting something very powerful right about now. What was it like putting together this movie with these individuals, with these particular individuals? It's one thing if you're going to make a movie of which this is the plot line, but these individuals are not impaired in those ways. So it's just, okay, cut, and you're done. What was it like creating the film using these people who are exactly what they are in the movie?
Yeah, Greg can add on to this, but I think it was a challenge in the way that we had to coach them up. We did open auditions to find the folks in the first place, and then we gave them, in some cases, some acting coaching, and then we had to work with ASL interpreters on set and ramps, and we had to select special times and locations, and all that entered into it. But beyond all the logistics, it was amazing because I think they taught the able-bodied cast more than the other way around, in terms of what it's like to live with everyday challenges, come to the set with a smile on your face. And I think they were, in some cases, more prepared with their lines and everything than seasoned actors. So pretty incredible.
Why is that? Why do you think that is? I think you're right. Why do you think that is?
Well, because I don't think they look at their disability as a flaw. I think they looked at it as an opportunity to be enlightened, like an opportunity to understand what's important in life. And they also are used to people second guessing them and shortchanging them in terms of things they can't do. So I think they try extra hard to prove that they are every bit as competent, if not more, and then they're eager to learn. So it was a really interesting dynamic.
It's so interesting you say that, because there's the parable of the filmmaker within this. I had a colleague once who did independent films, and Gina, let's say your micro budget was what he'd wish for sometimes, and all of a sudden he was able to do $1 million movie. He had a budget of over $1 million, and I remember asking him, I said, "Isn't it great?" And he says, "I don't know what to do with it." He says, "I don't know. I'm so used to this." He said it was almost more difficult, if you will. And so I always say this about independent filmmakers. You all come in so prepared to your movies, because you have to make that dollar last like $100. And so you're that much more prone. And I guess your actors are the same way. They must climb higher. They must be stronger. There's something that makes them achieve even more. So I'm not surprised at all. Now, you said you have relatively new cast in there.
Yeah. Some people that never acted or have no designs on wanting to act ever again. And they were just, and it was a challenge, but they all really they didn't want to be the weak link. They wanted to and I didn't let them, get away with anything either. If it wasn't right, it wasn't right. So, but they did. They came really prepared, and they came with a sense of openness that, because they were, as much as a lot of these folks had achieved outside of this, in overcoming things and adapting, it's a totally new thing to be shoved in front of a camera and have a bunch of people around you and to do that. And so it was a challenge for a while, but they really all stepped up. Everyone was, and I think it was nice because I feel like the cast and crew sort of had it always happens on a film set. Well, usually if it's a good one, you feel like a family. And I think that, I tried as much as possible to provide that feeling, and everybody sort of took that form, and everybody was always looking out for each other. And it was great. And I think, but everybody worked to help elevate everybody else's work, which was great.
So it seems your movie is a parable of the movie. Everyone came
Probably.
together.
Everyone
came together to be one community, to be one family, to get this very powerful message across. Great. Gentlemen, when does your movie run?
Well, it's premiering on Thursday, February 11th at 7:00 Eastern, and then on demand after that, all the way through the end of the festival, I believe on the 15th. And we're super excited.
Very cool, very cool. And Gina, when is yours running?
I Can't Sleep is premiering on Thursday, February 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And
there
it
you
will be
go.
available also through
Well,
the end
there
of the
you go.
festival.
So we go see one, and then we're sitting right in front of the screen. We go see the other the same day.
Switch over.
Perfect.
I didn't plan that. That's great. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see these really inspirational films, as well as scores of other amazing flights of fantasy, go to bostonscifi.com, Boston, SCIFI.com. Panels, interviews, information, tickets, a whole universe. And this interview and many others will be on Channel I. Go to J Michaels Arts, JayMichaelsArts.com for the link to Channel I and all of these interviews and many other interviews with genre celebrities, as well as independent artists of all kinds. And while you're there, press subscribe. You see, I want to be part of a community, and I'd like you to be part of my community. So please press subscribe. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being part of this. I've always walked away excited from this because I've never lost my joy in this kind of film, but I'm now walking away inspired because you've tackled, pardon me again, you've tackled demons in this, and you're succeeding, and you should be commended, you should be praised, and you're definitely an inspiration. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.